Right, now let's talk to Transport Minister Richard Holden, who joins us now. Good morning to you, Richard.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you very much. Very well. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. We're going to be talking about transport announcement you've got, but you know this is an event that happened. You know, just as people are getting off getting off a bus in South London. Representative of the government today. What is your reaction, and what is the government going to help do to make sure that after 16 teenagers have been killed on the streets of London, stabbings this year alone, that this is the last one?
Look, can I just say, first of all, that this is an absolutely sickening crime, and my heart absolutely goes out to the friends and family of this young lady who's tragically been murdered on her way to school in London. It's just absolutely unbelievable that this has occurred. Regarding what we're trying to do in this area, we banned zombie knives back in 2016. We strengthened that legislation.
No, you didn't. No, Richard, you didn't ban zombie knives. You banned the sale online of knives, big, massive machete zombie knives, which had writing on them. You could still buy the knives. You've only just done that. And then that's what I was saying. And in 2019, we then strengthened legislation, and we're going further again at the moment in that space, because and particularly to stop the illegal importation of these knives as well, with tougher sentences. That's what the Prime Minister, I think that's what you're referring to with the Prime Minister's most recent announcement in that space. The thing is, we've also had lots of announcements about stop and search. We've had lots of announcements about how if you're caught carrying a knife, you'll go to jail, automatic penalty if it's second time. The reality is most people caught with a knife, even on a second occasion, don't go behind bars. So, how are we going to tackle this issue if these youngsters are more afraid of someone else with a knife than they are of the authorities?
I think this has to be two things. One, as Paul was saying just before, this is obviously about sentencing, but on the other side, it's also about everybody in our communities, if they know people are carrying weapons, getting in touch with authorities and getting these knives taken off the street and getting these individuals prosecuted. I think that's what we absolutely have to do. We cannot see more young people needlessly losing their lives on the streets of our capital city because of the possession of these knives, and then them being used by people basically in what appears to be in relatively trivial disputes, and people end up getting killed from them. And that means everybody has a role to play in that. And so if people are carrying weapons, then we need to get those people prosecuted, and we need to get them as knives off the streets as quickly as possible. The worry is, the concern is that as I say, young people often it's gangs, but young boys and young girls involved in gangs, they're not living the life that most of us have lived, or our children are living. They're living in a sort of a parallel world where it is lawlessness, where they don't feel the police are on their side, and they feel they've got to protect themselves. Now, you can confiscate as many weapons as you want, and you can threaten them with as many punishments as they want. They're not afraid of you. They're not afraid of me. They're not afraid of anyone with a uniform on. They're afraid of the other kid with a machete down his jeans as well, and that's what they're afraid of. What do we do to stop them feeling that way, and therefore getting them not afraid of carrying a knife, but not wanting to carry a knife? Look, none of these people exist in isolation. I know you're saying about gangs, but none of these people exist in isolation. They all have friends, they all have families, They all have places they go to. People will know people will know other people who are carrying weapons in the city, and people should alert the authorities to stop things like this happening. This wasn't a gangland violence incident. This was somebody who killed an innocent 15-year-old girl on her way to school who was standing up for a mate. That's the situation here. And when there are knives out there in the community, these zombie knives and other offensive weapons, we need to ensure that they are taken out of circulation, and the people who've got them are taken out and prosecuted properly. And more broadly, you're absolutely right that there is an issue around social engagement around some communities and young people. The government has got long-term schemes looking at that and putting investment in, but it's absolutely, we need the Met to be concentrating fully on this issue. because it's such an important issue, and we just cannot see young people, killed like this on the street. It's just such a horrific and tragic case.
I think the main things most people feel, whether it's young or old, parents or not, that actually they don't feel they don't feel the police, they don't feel the government, they don't feel the mayor, they don't feel any of them are on our side, and they feel abandoned, frankly, into lawless streets. That's how people feel. Can you understand that?
I can completely sympathise with people who've, especially people who've been affected by this, as to feeling like that. What I would say is that the police are there to prosecute people and to deal with this situation.
They don't even turn up to a shoplifting, for God's sake.
And what I would say is not talk down the police, not say there's nothing that can be done, because actually people are being prosecuted, they can be put in prison, and that's what should happen.
Okay, but they're not. Are we going to go round in circles?
There isn't.
But they're not being. They're not being, Richard. You can keep saying it, but it doesn't ever happen.
To be very serious, Julia, if you're going around saying nothing can be done, that's just not true.
Do you think I'm not serious? Do you know how many times I've had to talk about children being killed on the streets of this city? Do you know what I mean? Do you think I'm not serious about this? Do you think I wasn't serious when I texted my daughter last night to check that she was safe because she was late home? Do you think every parent in this city, every parent in a city and a town in this country wasn't terrified out of their bloody wits yesterday that their child wouldn't come home? Everyone's serious about this, apart from the government, apart from the mayor, apart from the police.
That's total nonsense, Julia.
Really?
As you
when are you going to do something?
Okay,
how many teenagers? 16 this year alone in one city.
What needs to happen?
How many before you get serious?
Julia, you can scream at me all you want. What I'm saying is that if people want to stop this, then they have to get in touch with the authorities and ensure that those carrying weapons are dealt with properly by the authorities and prosecuted. Yeah. That's the only way we're going to stop it, is if people speak to other people and pass on that information to the authorities rather than existing aside from that. We have to ensure that people are really engaging with the authorities on it so that action can properly be taken.
Yeah, OK. Well, apologies for shouting, but funnily enough, I feel strongly about this as a parent of a teenager. Let's talk about what your responsibility is today in terms of transport. Lots of talk about high-speed rail lines that cost tens and tens of billions of pounds in the last week or so at HS2. But actually, for most people, it's about roads and it's about local buses. And you've got an announcement today about how millions of people are going to benefit from lower bus fares, and more people, by a long way, travel by bus rather than by train, don't they?
You're absolutely right. More people travel by bus. It's our most popular form of public transport. And what we're doing today is announcing the latest tranche of money to support local authorities right across the country with extra support to protect those bus routes. This is alongside what I've already been on your show about before, Julie, which was talking about the Get Around for £2 bus fare scheme, which is helping people with lower fares. So this is the other side of that. This is supporting the bus routes. And this cash goes directly to 64 local authorities right across the country to help them support those bus routes on one side, and on the other side ensure that cash is there, that we're keeping fares low for people as well. So it's a two-pronged approach we're taking.
It's not just keeping fares low, though. It's also about the number of bus services. I know people who live in areas, they've got a home. Sometimes people got a council home, so they're not in a position to move. Where, there are 2 bus services a day. There's one at 8 o'clock that would get them to work late, and there's the last one's at 6 o'clock in the evening to get home. Well, their shift finishes after that, and they literally can't get anywhere. They can't afford a car because they haven't got a job. They can't get a job because they can't get to a job. We need the actual bus services to exist in many parts of the country.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and that's what the Bus Service Improvement Plan funding is there for. Councils can use it to support, this is directly to support bus services. And as I was saying, the other side of this is, so it's about reliable and affordable service, and this is about the reliability element of it, to ensure that local authorities can step in where there isn't commercial provision, or where that commercial side has been lost due to lower passenger numbers, and they can step in to support local services. Okay. But this is part of, we've put over £3.5 billion in since March 2020 into our bus networks right across the country. I was only a few days ago up in Manchester with Andy Brittain. The government's put over £1 billion in to support that scheme up there, the B network across Greater Manchester. I'm willing to work cross-party with local authorities right across the country. I want to work with them to secure bus networks of the country and also affordable fares for passengers. And
when it comes to HS2, do you support or not support HS2 actually travelling, being a journey that's not just between Birmingham and London, but actually does join up some of our great cities in the Midlands and the North?
No, obviously you'll know, Julia, that there's been a huge inflationary pressure over the last couple of years. In fact, inflation on construction costs has been more than double inflation in supermarkets. So that will give your viewers and listeners a little bit of an idea of the pressures under, and it's right that government properly looks at that. But as you said earlier on, the majority of journeys in this country on public transport happen by road, happen by bus and by coach, and it's really important as well that we ensure that those journeys are also supported, which is what's the core of my announcement today.
All
and can
right.
I just say before I go, well, congratulations on your last show. Hopefully I'll be able to come on to your lunchtime show
I
at
can
some
shout
other
to
point.
you at 1
but I will
o'clock
miss
as
you in the
well.
mornings, Julia. I'll miss you in the mornings.
I'm sorry for shouting you, but it really bothers me when I feel like a minister isn't taking a situation seriously. Richard, I really do appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you for that, Transport Minister Richard Holden.